Hey students, in this video I'm going to go over factoring trinomials, and we've done this before earlier in the school year, but we are going to use it again in polynomial functions that we're doing right now, for example with higher degrees like 4, 3, 6, 5, or 4 as exponents. So we're just going to quickly review what factoring is. So factoring is whenever you're multiplying two numbers. The factors are two numbers that you multiply to get a product. So for example, these right here are factors that you multiply. So if we multiply like this, we would get x squared minus 3x plus 7x minus 21. And then you will combine like terms. So the answer for this multiplication or factor form, it will be x squared plus 4x minus 21. So we can say that these two factors became this trinomial. So now you're going to have the trinomials, and you're going to write what the factors are that you had to get there. Or just kind of think of it like I'm giving you the answer, so you're thinking of how did you start it. All right, so we're going to work backwards. We're going to notice that this middle term became this middle term because we combined two like terms. So we're going to sort of do that in a little bit. We're going to look at this middle term, and we're going to leave a space. We're going to write two blanks in between the first term and the third term. But in higher mathematics, you always want to check if there's a GCF first. Take it out if possible. That way you can save yourself some steps. So GCF here, 1, 9, and 20. 1, 9, and 20 don't have a GCF. So we move on to the next step, which is writing the expression with the first term, leaving some space for that middle term, and then bringing down that last term, plus 20. Then you want to find the factors that a term times c and combines to make the letter b. So one strategy I show my students is to kind of create like a little x, a times c at the top, b at the bottom. A times c is 1 times 20. And then the b value was a 9. So I'm just going to write this. And then the students needed to think of a combination of two numbers that multiply to give you 20. And when you add or subtract, you get 9. So again, this is the factors of 20 that combine to get 9. So 4x and 5x. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 plus 5 is 9. So these are the two numbers we're going to use right here in this blanks. Plus 4x plus 5x. Once you get to that step, you're going to group. So just like in the previous video, we're going to draw those parentheses and group two binomials, and then GCF the first binomial. So we're going to first group the first two terms and then the last two terms, and then factor out the GCF. So like 1x squared and 4x, they both have an x in common. So let's take out that x. And then if we take out an x, we're going to be left with x plus 4. Leave a little bit space and repeat that binomial of x plus 4. And now think of what number times x gives you 5x. What number times 4 gives you 20. So the answer here will be positive 5. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 4 is 20. So your factors are going to be the one that repeats. So x plus 4. This is the last step. Regroup the terms that you found here. Regroup them into two binomial factors. The one that repeats, it's one of them, x plus 4. And then the other two that are individual, that's your other factor. So that is the process of factoring a trinomial. And this goes as fast as you make it, but it's just repeat. So let's try example 2. This is just y squared, which is a 1 in the front, 2 and 1. This is, again, first step GCF. This does not have a GCF, 1, 2, and 1. Next, we're going to rewrite the first term and the last term, so just y squared, leave some spaces, and then plus 1. Then we do our little x, a times c, b at the bottom. A times c is 1 times 1, which is 1y squared. B value is 2, so 2y. What number, or what are the factors of 1? So it's just 1y, 1y. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. So these two are positive 1. Once you fill those spaces, you're going to group them. So this is the grouping method. And then you're going to do a GCF of both of these. Y is what they have in common. And then you're going to write y plus 1. If you divide both of these by y, you end up with y plus 1. Okay, so leave a little bit of space and rewrite this binomial, y plus 1. And then now, what do you multiply times y, and what do you multiply times 1 to get 1y plus 1? So just 1 plus 1. Okay, so then this leaves you with the binomial of y plus 1, because that's the separated one, and then y plus 1, because that's the repeated one. So when these two are exactly the same, you can actually rewrite it as y plus 1 squared. So this is the answer for number 2. Okay, let's try the next one. If at any moment you want to try these on your own, just pause the video and then just press play to check if you did it correctly. All right, so we're going to check if 3, 3, and negative 18 have any GCF. 3, 3, and 18 are divisible by 3, so you're going to have 3 as your GCF. And you're left with x squared plus x minus 6 if you divide each one by 3. From there, you're going to rewrite the front part and the last part. Leave 2 spaces in the middle. And then find those 2 spaces with your x, or a space that shows you the combination that will fit in there. We will multiply a times c, so that's 1 times negative 6. I know right here you have 3 and 18, but again, we're working already with this factored trinomial. So ignore the 3 and just look at this. So it's 1 times negative 6 squared, and then positive 1x is your b. So what numbers do you multiply to get negative 6? That's 2 times 3, that's 6, and then 6 times 1. So which combination will give you a positive 1 if you had one was a positive and 1 was a negative, because you have negative 6 as an answer. So that will be 2 and 3. That's the only one that will give you that difference of 1. And in order to get a positive 1, you need to have more positives. So we're going to put a plus on the 3 and a negative on the 2. So then we're going to have these two fill in, negative 2x, positive 3x. And then you group, write your parentheses between those. And then you have, what do these two have in common? They have x. So we're going to have a GCF of x, so we're left with x minus 2. You leave a little space, and then you write x minus 2 again. And in this space, we're going to write a number times x and a number times negative 2 to get 3x minus 6. That number is positive 3. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And that results in our binomials of x plus 3 and x minus 2. Okay, let's try the next one. We have 2, 30, and 100. All of those are divisible by 2, so we're going to have 2 as our GCF. If we divide all of these by 2, we're going to have m squared minus 15m plus 50. So from here, we're going to separate the first and third term. 2 spaces in the middle, and then 50, positive 50. We write our x to organize our thinking. So a times c is 1 times 50. That's 50m squared. And then at the bottom is b. b is negative 15. So now you think of what numbers do you multiply to get 50, but when you combine, you get negative 15. So the fact that this is a positive and this is a negative, this positive only results from positive times positive or negative times negative. And the only way we can get a negative here is if we have both of these negatives. So we're going to have a negative and a negative, and 10 times 5 is 50, and 10 and 5 is 15. So that works out. So negative 10m and negative 5m. It doesn't matter how you put these, because when you do the GCF from the grouping method, you'll still get the right answers, regardless of the order you put these. Okay, so we put the parentheses in between, we GCF the binomial. These two have an m in common, which results in m minus 10. And then we leave a little space, and now we have m minus 10 again. So what number do you multiply times m and times negative 10 to get negative 5m plus 50? So that's going to be a negative 5. Negative 5 times m, negative 5m, negative 5 times negative 10. It's positive 50. So that's m minus 5, m minus 10. Those are your answers. Okay, so all of that was just Algebra 1 level. These two below are Algebra 2 because they have higher exponents, but same steps. We look for the GCF. 18, 3, and 6 all have 3 in common. We can divide that by 3. And as far as the variable, we're going to have the highest we can take out is the one with the lowest exponent. So this one. All of these have at least 4 n's, so we're going to take out 4 n's. We're going to divide each term by n to the 4th power. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. And then if you have n to the 6th power divided by n to the 4th power, if you take out 4 n's from here, you're only going to have 2 left. And next we have negative 3 divided by 3, that's negative 1. If you have 5 n's and you take out 4, you're going to have 1 left. And then negative 6 divided by 3, that's negative 2. If you have 4 and you take out 4, then you have nothing left. So we're going to leave this trinomial after we do the GCF. We're going to have this trinomial. From here, we're going to now factor this trinomial the same way we're factoring these others. So we're going to separate this 6n squared, 2 spaces, negative 2. Draw our x, a times c, and then b. A times c is negative 12 n squared. And then the b value is negative 1 n. So what two numbers do you multiply to get negative 12? But it has to be one positive, one negative, because negative 12 is your answer. So positive times negative. So that means we're going to be subtracting the numbers. So that means we're going to have 4 and 3. 4 and 3 give you that difference of 1. In order to have negative 1, you need to have negative 4. More negatives than positives. Okay, so these two numbers are the ones that are going to go right here. And then now you do grouping. And you're going to take out the GCF from these two. So these two have a 2 in common. And then they both have an n in common. So then we take out, or we divide 6 divided by 2, that's 3. N squared divided by n, that's n. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. N divided by n is nothing, so we leave it alone. Leave a little space and rewrite the binomial. And if you notice, it's exactly the same, which means we're going to just have a positive 1 here, because 1 times 3n is 3n, and 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Once we have these, we're going to write 2n plus 1, and then the one that repeats, it's your other one, 3n minus 2. And then don't forget about this first one. This first one needs to also go in the very front, 3n to the 4th power. So this is your these are your 3 factors after you factor all of these 3 terms. All right, I'm going to do one more, and again, pause the video, rewind if you need any clarification on the process. So here, 6, 5, and 6 don't have a GCF number-wise, but variable-wise, they all have x's. So what's the highest amount of x's we can take out? Again, the lowest amount is 2. They all have at least 2. When we take out 2 from each one of these, we're going to be left with 6x squared plus 5x minus 6. So imagine these had 4, we took out 2 and there's 2 left. 3, we took out 2 and there's 1 left. 2, we took out 2 and there's nothing left. Okay, so then now we're going to factor this trinomial, bring down the first term, bring down the last term, put some spaces in the middle, draw our x, a times c, and then b. A times c is 6 times 6. That's, oh, it's actually a negative 6. So 6 times negative 6 is negative 36x squared. Our b value is 5x. So what two numbers do you multiply where you have a negative answer and it gives you 36, but when you combine, you get 5. So here you need to think about 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9. So 4 times 9 gives you that 5. 4x, 9x, and in order to get positive 5x, you need to have a plus 9, negative 4. So we're going to have negative 4x plus 9x, group it, and then find the GCF. These two, sorry, not here. These two have 2x in common. They both could be divisible by 2. So then we have 3x minus 2. Leave some space. 3x minus 2. And then how can we get a 9x? We have a 3x. Well, we can put a positive 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So here, one of your binomials is 2x plus 3, and the other one is the one that repeats, 3x minus 2. To finalize it, look at the front, look at the top. You have the x squared that you took out at the beginning, so write it down, and this will be your trinomial in factor form. So this trinomial that you started with, this is the factor form for it. All right, please let me know if you have any questions in class or through this video. I'll re-explain if needed. Hope this video helped you.